Well, I did not think that I was going to get quite so many questions as I did, partially because I didn't think that there were going to be a lot of people who would actually watch a 65-minute tour of my library. I don't know why all of you people sat through that whole thing. I mean, thanks for doing it, you're awesome, but you're weird. So yeah. Like I said though, I'm actually going to answer all the questions that you guys posed, especially since you also put potato in front of the questions. I was joking about that. I didn't think you guys were going to do it. YouTube has corrupted all of you. No, but all the comments were very supportive. You know, congratulations on 15,000 and all that. So thanks for that. And we apparently have one comment who wants me to run for president in 2020, which, I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea. It's just that I would have a very narrow-minded platform. But enough of my delusions. I'm sure you guys want me to get onto some of these questions. And unlike the Q&As I've done before, I'm going to do all this, or try to do all this in one straight shot. So enough wasted time, let's go. Potato, what is your least favorite book that you have actually finished that wasn't assigned by school? Well, I mean, the obvious one would be something that I've done for the show, so either Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey. Those are the obvious answers, of course. Twilight is amazingly boring, and 50 Shades was amazingly boring and advocated for abuse. Outside of that though, if you want something a little less predictable as an answer, I would say probably The New Order by Chris Weitz. Yes, this is the famous director guy from Hollywood. This book is absolute garbage because nothing fucking happens. A couple of kids go across New York and talk to other kids, and another kid talks to other kids in London, I think it was. It is amazingly boring. There is a third book in the series. I don't want to touch it. There's a nuclear threat in this book. There's a nuclear threat, and it's boring as fuck. So how do you do that? And there's a section where one kid is supposed to be like super smart, goes through and starts, I mean, he's supposed to be so smart that he thinks way faster than the rest of us. So the author didn't use any punctuation for his sections, and it's not clever because one, it's been done before, but two, more importantly, it's painful to read. Wow, that is the first question. I'm already this upset. We're off to a great start! Potato, have you ever considered The Heralds of Valdemar by Mercedes Lackey? I've actually never heard of that before, but I will add it to my reading list. Potato, are there any adaptations or books that you consider a solid no for reviewing? Actually, I am considering a top, however many I come up with, list of movies that I will likely never review. I don't want to say that I'll definitely never do it because Linkara did that and then he ended up reviewing like half of the list. But if you want an example of something, Lolita. I don't think I would ever review that because obvious. I'm also hesitant on reviewing Gone Girl, not because it's bad, but because the initial shock was spoiled for me, and now I don't think that it'll have the same impact that it would have otherwise if I'd been able to read the fucking book in complete peace. I'm also not really looking forward to reviewing I, Robot, which I'll get to in more detail in a later update or something. Decent movie. Good book. Really not a lot of crossover for me to discuss though, because there was almost nothing in common outside of a few thematic links you could find. The movie was made up almost entirely whole cloth. The book is nothing like that. Potato. My question is, well, how the idea of the show, The Book Was Better, came to being. Originally, I came up with the idea for The Book Was Better because I had been exploring different options for trying to be famous. I wasn't really making it as a writer. I wasn't adventurous enough to go out into Hollywood and try to become an actor like that. Any Hollywood producers are watching this, call me. So I thought I would just do what everyone else was doing and start a YouTube channel. Originally I wanted to do something about book reviews. Unfortunately, one thing I realized early on though was that if I didn't have an appealing visual component to the show, I wasn't going to retain a lot of attention. So I decided to twist the original idea of book reviews and just throw in books or movies based on books. And now I'm actually making a profit off of the show, so Thanks, YouTube. Potato, first of all, do you own any Stephen King books, and what are your thoughts on him? I respect what Stephen King has done. The man has accomplished quite a lot, and yeah, I'd kill to get at least a fraction of his success. I've not really read a lot of his stuff. I remember I've read The Dead Zone, and I read a book of short stories. The short stories didn't really appeal to me because one of them was about a finger crawling out of a sink. Dead Zone was cool though. I need to get around to reading more of his stuff because his short stories aren't really my thing, so... And, I mean, other than that, my biggest exposure to him is his adaptations being reviewed by the Nostalgia Critic, and that's not really a good foundation for his writing, so I really don't have much to judge him on. Second, why did you overlook Anne Rine's books? I don't know. Frankly, there were a lot of books I overlooked. I did have other plans and other books that I wanted to discuss, which just slipped my mind because it was the third time I tried recording a book tour, and I was kind of at wit's end because I just wanted to get it done. While that's on my mind though, one book that I wanted to check out real quick was this one. Fans of the storyline will recognize this is the magic book that Crimson got from GC, which tells him the basic types of mages. Obviously this is not a real magic book. This is actually the history of English literature. I got this because the cover looked good for, you know, like an old worn book, and I mean just look at that. It's neat. The color's good, kind of has a mystical coloration to it, which I appreciate. And I kind of thought using a history of English literature as a prop piece was appropriate considering the main channel. But more to the point of Ayn Rand, I actually only have the two books, Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. Read Atlas Shrugged in college, enjoyed it, a little wordy, but you know, not bad. Have not read the Fountainhead, so... oh, and we can tie that back to an earlier question. That is another book that I will probably never review just because of I don't like having politics on my channel. It's not fun. Politics makes dicks of us all. Potato, have you read Red Queen yet? If so, what did you think? If not, you totally should. I have read Queen. I have not read it. I actually just picked it up, and unfortunately, it's like number 400 in my reading list right now. I might move that up. It's a very flexible reading list, but who knows? Potatoes, where does their Nothing Less books your fanfic? I'm gonna take a guess at that and assume you were asking about the blue books that I had down on my shelf earlier that I told you to ignore. Those are physical copies of the first book of my fanfiction that my father printed out and gave to me. It's my earliest work, so it's not great, so you can ignore it. Continue ignoring it. Don't bring it up. Potato, Crimson, I heard near the end that you have had the complete vocal score to the Pirates of Penzance. Are you a Gilbert and Sullivan fan by any chance? Not particularly. I actually just pulled that out because I wanted to sing Modern Major General for a theater class back in high school, and I needed the musical score in order to get all the notes right. Not a bad play by any means. It is just, I got it for just the one song. Also, have you ever read the Niels Kim's Underground Travels by Ludvig Holberg? If you've never heard of it, it's basically the Danish equivalent to Gulliver's Travels. So it's like Jonathan Swift, but with better food. No, I'm afraid I have not heard of that, but again, adding it to my reading list. Potato, have you finished the Alcatraz Smidgery series? Unfortunately, I have not. I really enjoyed the first book. I started this second book. Unfortunately, at the time, I was borrowing it from a roommate in college who was borrowing it from a library, and I had to give it back before I could finish it. And I never got around to finishing the second book. I have got to do that. I am years overdue, and I suck for not following up on it sooner. Potato, will you re-upload your City of Bones review? Yes, that will happen. I just need to re-edit something because it keeps getting struck by the same copyright trolls. It is very obnoxious, so I'm gonna modify that somehow heavily because trolls suck. But it should be out later this year. Potato! Have you ever read the Alex Cross books? If so, what did you think of them? I've actually not read Alex Cross or much of James Patterson's books. He's one of those authors that I need to get around to more of. The problem is I've read the manga version of Maximum Ride, and that was a very bad start to anything he's been involved in. But I do have, as you saw in the book tour, I do have some of the Alex Cross books, and may get around to reviewing them eventually, because there's at least one movie. Potato, what volumes of Naruto did you get with your Full Metal Alchemist manga books, and have you ever read any of the Naruto manga before you got those volumes? Actually, in college, I was in the anime and manga club. I was actually president for 1 year, and Naruto was one of the more popular things to read. I used to read the manga every week when it was put up on a fan dub site. I believe, well, so I got volumes 1 through 27, which I believe carries all the way up to right at the beginning of the time skip. And I was following that for a while into Shippuden until it just got too boring for me to follow, because the author kept introducing new characters, fighting new characters, and I'm like, I don't know any of these people, I don't care about them, bring me something good. And then there was something about two brothers in a pot fighting another guy I've never heard of before, and I was like, okay, fuck this, I'm out. Bleach didn't last much longer beyond that. Potato, is there any books that you really want to be adapted into film? My usual go-to on this is the Alcatraz Smidgery books, because I mean, a lot of the joy in that comes from the prose and how sharp Sanderson is in writing all of that, but I'm not sure if they'd be able to really carry that over into film. Still be willing to give it a shot, though. Potato, thank you so much for the book tour. When do you think you'll get around to The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear? I actually finished and reviewed them recently and heard that there's an adaptation in the works for Name. Would love to hear what you thought of them and when you can get around to them. I don't know. My reading schedule is very sporadic. I kind of just, I'll get to finishing one book and I'll decide what do I feel like reading next, and then I'll just go back to the Gone series or to Percy Jackson, because I gotta finish those series up. Potato, if you had the choice, would you direct a film adaptation of The Micro God? That depends entirely on my budget, because the way that I said it, you don't need a big expensive crew. I mean, I'd be able to do something like that on YouTube. People have already made amazing movies with no budget. Check out Cardboard Warfare, for example. All the props are clearly cardboard, like they're not even trying to hide it, but they play it straight, so it comes off really, really well. But yeah, if given the option, like if somebody wanted to fund that, I think I would direct an adaptation of Micro God. Would be fun. Potato, hey Kyle, have you thought about reviewing any of Jules Verne's work or Francis Hodgson Burnett's work? The two most notable ones being 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and The Secret Garden, respectively. Jules Verne, maybe. I'm not opposed to it, and he is responsible for a lot of classics. On the other hand, Slade has been bothering me to review The Secret Garden for about 2 years now, so we might be seeing that one sooner. Potato, is there a book on writing novels out there that you would recommend? I write short screenplays with Sid Field's screenplay as a tool, but I can't seem to find anything specifically on novels or even short novels. I've not come across any myself. I, personally speaking, I learned by doing, so I learned how to write by writing fan fictions, lots of fan fictions, and listen to your constructive criticism, because it will do you a lot of favors. As far as actual books, like I said at the book tour, Strunk and Weitz, The Elements of Style, and Wayne C. Booth's The Rhetoric of Fiction. Those will both do you a lot of good as far as world building and proper grammar and so on and so forth. Potato, noticed no Garth Nix ever read any of his. I hated reading it as a kid. I read The Seventh Tower. Also, I recommend the Howl's Moving Castle books. Ever read those? Actually, I do have one Garth Nix books. Wow. I do have one Garth Nix book. It's in one of my downstairs shelves. Stop that. I have not read it. I have gotten a very strong recommendation for it. So, I don't know, I'm reserving judgment for now. And I have not read the Howl's Moving Castle books, but adding to the list. Potato, do you have any thoughts on David Baldacci as a writer and his books? I got a couple of his books for free, but don't know much of anything about them, and they or they need to be read in any order. I actually haven't read any of Baldacci. I actually got several of his books for free from a friend at work, and I have not touched them. I think when I finally do get his website for myself, I need to just get a list of books I've read and authors I've read and things like that. Just a lot of people seem interested in that. Potato, will you do an episode on Leviathan Weitz with the show The Expanse in the future? You know, this kind of thing is why I'm not worried about the show ever running out of material of things to read, because I didn't know The Expanse was based on Leviathan Weitz. Not opposed to it. Might get around to it someday. I am hoping to increase production soon, so we'll see how well that goes. Might be able to get up to 2 episodes a month. That would be nice. Potato, nice collection. Out of curiosity, how often do you buy books purely on fan recommendations? Cough, Howl's Moving Castle, cough, cough. Actually, I have an entire document on my computer here of just books to buy that you guys recommend for me. So what I'll do is I'll take that to my bookstore, and as I'm browsing the shelves, I'll keep my eye out for certain authors or titles. I don't go out of my way to try to buy them online because that gets expensive. I prefer to shop at used bookstores, but I do pay attention. Also, hypothetically, would you be okay with a fan of your show writing fan fiction about your show's storyline? That actually sounds really awesome. Go for it. Potato, is there a good starting point for Michael Crichton? Should I just go straight into Jurassic Park? Jurassic Park is just his most famous book. Really, I'm sure that there's some niche of science that can appeal to almost anybody. Pirate Latitudes and Dragon Teeth are just pseudo-historical ones. Prey is about nanomachines, nanotechnology. State of Fear is about climate change. Next is about genetic manipulation. Timeline is parallel dimensions and time travel. Andromeda Strain is about alien bacteria. So Jurassic Park would be a good basic starting point. Frankly, I have not read a Michael Crichton book that I didn't enjoy aside from Pirate Latitudes, but that book was not finished by the time it was published because he had just died and his publishers were trying to capitalize off of that because they're scum. Potato, have you read the Witcher series? I have not, but I might be moving that up in my schedule. Another angrier YouTuber named The Dishonored Wolf has been talking about the Witcher series in a lot of his videos, so I might move them up in my schedule. He has sung praises of the books before, so I might. Potato, what is your honest opinion of fan fiction? Okay, so I'm kind of both ways on the whole general view of fanfiction. Like, fanfiction is terrible writing, or fanfiction is a good potential learning block. 90% of fanfiction is some degree of garbage, and that does include my own. At the same time, I think fanfiction is one of the most effective building blocks to start as a writer. It's definitely what got me off the ground, and I would recommend it for anybody. Just be willing to accept constructive criticism. Potato, do you own a typewriter or ever thought of getting a typewriter for writing? No typewriter. You should see the way I type. It is awful. It's like this memorized version of Hunt and Peck. If I actually had a keyboard instructor in front of me, they would probably beat me to death. Typos galore when I'm writing stuff. Thank God for spell check. It would be a neat aesthetic. I don't think there's enough paper in the world to account for all the typos I would need to correct. Potato, I know you probably get asked this a lot, but have any plans to do The Book Was Better for the original Jurassic Park? Yes, Jurassic Park is on the schedule. It's just a fair bit of ways. I'm saving it for a milestone review because it is such a good book and such a good movie that I've got to do something special for it. I don't know why, my brain just works that way, forgive me. Potato, you ass. Would you consider perhaps doing a writer's talk on this channel? A video in which you, Crimson, sit and talk about the craft, maybe give us a few pointers, or just chat about your process. I'm actually not opposed to that. I have something that's still way in the development stage of things where I go over a few basics to get yourself started as a writer. There are so many different paths you can take to become a writer that I can't narrow them all down, but I can try to give a few pointers for what helped me develop as a writer. So I might. Of course, it would help if I published more than one book. I sound like I'm full of myself. Potato, nice collection. Thank you, nice comment. What book has disappointed you the most? I actually had to think about that one quite a lot. Not too many titles come to mind right now. Really, they're just the two that I can think of, and that's just from looking around the room. First one, of course, being Twilight, because as I revealed in the, I believe I revealed in the episode, when I was first introduced to Twilight, my roommate at the time and my girlfriend at the time were both highly praising it, you know, saying, "Oh my God, it's really good. It's like the next Harry Potter." And I barely got a third of the way through it. It was so very awful of a book. The other one is a book that I kind of picked up for random, which actually does have a movie tie-in. It's called Category 7, and picking it up, I knew I was going to get a stupid thriller. It was going to be, oh my God, we've got a Category 7 hurricane coming through. Hurricanes cap out at Category 5, by the way. So I thought the book was going to come off as this big blockbuster stupid movie, which can be fun. I do rather enjoy the works of Steve Alden, and he's not too far off from that. Category 7 is one of the worst setup books I have ever touched. And this is going to go into a separate video I'm planning of books that were so bad I couldn't finish them. But Category 7, things are set up, but they're not set up very clearly. There's a scene where a guy is out in a field with some equipment measuring storms with his men, but it turns out, no, he's not. He's actually at home, and then his little, girl, his daughter comes up and walks in the room. She's talks to him like in a very infantile voice. So of course she's like 3 or 4 or something. No, it turns out she's like 16 or 17, and she wants to borrow the car. And these things aren't introduced. This is all in one scene, mind you. Everything is introduced so badly that I get an idea of what I think is going on, and that I'm told that I'm wrong. So I couldn't stand that. I might go back to it to see if I can glean more from it, but right now, I expected dumb. I didn't expect incompetent. Like, on a fundamental level.